And we are live. What's going on, Facebook and YouTube Live? I always got to think of which platforms I'm on. It's your man, Coach Rowe. We got a great show in store for you today. Let's get into it. Yeah. You know how I feel about that. I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do when we change the music. I'll be like, I kind of miss the old music.
Well, if it's
Anyway,
not broke, why would we fix it?
it's gonna be a while before we fix it. I can tell you that much. Welcome, everyone, to Taralyn, Michelle, and Billy Wroe live. We have a great show for you guys this evening. I can't wait to talk about this, and I'm gonna say the title so arrogantly, just ignorant, not even arrogantly. I'm sorry, ignorantly.
Ignorantly.
Ignorantly. I would say the title so ignorantly, like my mama would say it. We have a great show for you tonight. I'm sorry, I didn't even give you a chance to say hello. I'm sorry. Say hello to people, Coach T.
Oh, well, hello, everybody. Hello. But you know, when you said ignorant, I didn't care to think about anything else. This is right up my This is right up my street, so let's do it.
Ignorantly. I didn't say ignorant. I said ignorantly. But we have a great topic for you tonight. Tonight's topic is actually going to be about mind your business. Mind your business. I cannot wait to talk about this topic because I feel like I've in a lot of the conversations that I've been having, this has been a kind of like a topic that has been circling me in the conversations that I've been having. So, as always, we like to share what we think about this particular topic. Taylor, I'm gonna let you go first, and then I'll come in after you on this one.
I think you're gonna have more of a punch on this one for me, but you know, when I saw this, I think one of the primary things that came to mind for me is our obsession as a culture with other people's business. If you just think about celebrity and with the reality TV, and the reality TV is one thing, but a lot of people take that way of communicating and that way of being into their real lives. And
Mm-hmm.
so that magnetism that some have to drama and creating drama and the fun shade and all of those different things that require you being in people's business or having something to say about things that have absolutely nothing to do with you. And it's not going to enhance anything that's going on with you. It's just to have something to talk about. And there's just a negative energy that comes with it that as a society, we tend to want to gloss over and make it seem as though it's not actually negativity that we're throwing. So when I think about minding your business, I think about becoming comfortable with environments that have zero toxicity and that becoming something that's normal and something that folks are drawn to, as opposed to needing a little bit of the edge with the drama in order to consider life interesting or fun. So that's what came to mind for me. What about for you?
Oh man, you hitting all the sweet spots and the nuggets for me on this. For me, when I thought about mind your business, I actually started thinking about the like you said the toxic nature of the drama that we allow to be around us, and why we allow it to be around us. And so I started thinking from the perspective of what benefit do we get from allowing the drama and the business and the information of others to be in our lives. Um, and though there is, to me, at least in my life, there's no direct benefit that I can see from engaging in drama after drama after drama. um, I also think that there is some, going back to last week's conversation about silence, if that was last week, I can't even remember our show like in order. But when we were talking about like being in this moment of silence, um, that allowing people to bring that drama and minding the business of others, what it does is it creates that noise so that you don't have to focus on you. Because the reality of the scope is we don't have to look very far in our lives to find drama. We have our own drama that we carry. We have our own traumas that we carry that create new dramas that we carry. So we don't have to look that far for that. But because we're so focused on everybody else's business, it takes that pressure or that awareness that we have of our own issues. It kind of subsides or muffles those to a degree to where we don't have to focus on us. So when I think about minding your business, I think about that toxic that we bring in and the benefit that we think we receive from it, not realizing the stress that we are still putting our body under by bringing in unnecessary drama that we don't even have to deal with. And the reality is when we're faced with other people's drama, we typically are not the person providing the solution to resolve that drama. So if we're not resolving the drama, that means you're not even training to get better at resolving your own personal dramas. It'd be like, hey, it's great you have a practice ground. You have I don't know if when you were a kid in your neighborhood, they had those portable hoops, portable rims.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Of course.
So it's like, what's the purpose of having this portable rim if ain't nobody gonna practice shooting shots on it? And most of those rims sat out there and maybe 1 out of 10 got played with. I don't know what the odds were, but it wasn't like that was what people were playing basketball on. It was like, oh, we went to the park to play basketball because they had the fixed rims and we could dunk on those, or they were less forgiving if you hit the rim, all that kind of stuff. And so for me, when I think about minding your business, I think about what's the benefit that we get when we're minding the business of others. And is that really a benefit to us, or does it just act as a vice to muffle and stifle out the drama that we have in our own lives?
I also think that it can your attraction to drama can tell a lot about where you are in terms of mental health and emotional health. I really believe that, because I think that it takes a certain type of person to find fun and entertainment in someone else's pain. A lot of the times when you see drama being perpetuated, it's people telling a little bit of truth mingled with some lies, and they're telling this truth in jest. They're disguising it as a joke, but it's really not a joke. It's something that's meant to get a rise out of you. But if I take some manure and present it with some sugar on top, then maybe you won't see it as manure.
Right. Maybe you'll take a bite.
It's this presenting something that's nasty, nice, and then the social construct around it where people feel as though they have to play that game. You can't accept it as being nasty because that's what it is, because, oh, well, I laughed about it. The fact that, I don't know, it's something traumatic in somebody's life. So I think that it when you get to a space in your own life where that's something that's fun or funny, I would think that you would want to take a step back and evaluate where you are. Because for me personally, like you say, we all have our share of trauma in our life as well as drama. I just don't want to be around it. I don't want to have anything to do with it. If I know of something negative that's going on with someone, I don't want to entertain that. I don't want to be the person to be in a group full of people and I'm mentioning or alluding to something about someone that could make them feel caught off guard or put on front or put on the spot or made to feel uncomfortable. So to be that person and for that to be something that someone relishes, or it actually makes them feel empowered, I think that should be a cause for concern. And I think what's weird nowadays is that it's not. It's something that's become normalized as fun shade. When it comes fun shade. How can shade be fun?
Right.
How is that even a thing? So I love when you mentioned folks who participate in this type of behavior, it actually being a distraction or a way for them to put their own issues off to the side because they're focusing on somebody else. It's kind of like when you think back about elementary school, the weakest one was always the bully. And really the bully chose to be the bully so nobody would bully them. It wasn't that they were strong. They were actually the weakest person in the entire school. So that thing really is crazy. It hasn't changed. You just see a lot of adults doing it.
Right. And I think when you talk about the fun shade, for me, when I even think about the fun shade, if there was a such thing, um, I think about a couple of things. I think about the gossip aspect of fun shade, and somebody who doesn't have a whole lot of business to tell about themselves, but got a whole lot of time to tell about everybody else's business. Um, and I think about the fact that having people who think shade is fun around you, really that's a reflection not just on you and them, but it's a reflection of the, I'm going to call it the lack of maturity that you actually have to truly be able to have things of substance to talk about. Because think
I,
about what drama is. Um, I think about like, I can't remember what year it was that the TV show 24 came out. Really good TV show. Every week that they played the show, you can go back into the office and you can have a conversation about the show.
yeah.
Um, and I'm sure there's probably shows that are like that now. I don't know because I don't watch as much TV as I watched back then. But at some point, if we're, let's say, 20 years now from when 24 was released, 20 years later, if I'm still talking about 24, like I try not to cuss a lot on the show, but damn, move on. Like that's how I feel. Like just move on. And so when I think about people who participate in that fun shade, I believe, and I could be wrong. I believe that there could also be a secret desire to truly see you to fail, because there will be something else for them to talk about.
Yeah.
Because other than that, all I have is the content that I have, and I'm not going to add any of my stuff to it. So I need you to fail so I can add it. You won't believe what Billy did, and you won't believe what Taralyn did, and you won't believe what JC did. I want to be able to add to the story, but I don't ever want to add my stuff to the story. And so when I think about minding my business, minding my business, not your business, minding my business, I think about, what do I want to add to the conversation of my life? And JC and I actually were having a conversation earlier today, and we were talking about uh, the micro progressions that we make in life. And part of this conversation, I'm scrolling back in time on Facebook and social media, trying to find what was my first row post. And then I was like, oh, before first row, there was this super long name, things many fathers forget to teach their children. And I'm scrolling back on that, and I'm almost back. I mean, we went as far back as 2013. And it's like, I look at what I was doing in 2013 and what I'm doing in 2023, and all it is a accumulation of small disciplines of, I want to be able to articulate better. I want to make sure I'm writing my thoughts. I want to make sure that I'm focused on certain things each day. And I get to 2023 and I have now a book that's out because I've done enough of adding to this pot to be able to create something of substance. Whereas people who like to throw that shade, they're not typically adding to their own pot, because if they were, in my opinion, if they were adding to their own pot, eventually they would grow out of it. They'd say, what are we talking about? And a lot of my friends today and this day and age and this year are like, yeah, no, I don't got time for the drama. Like, if you call me with drama, hey, I gotta go. I gotta go. You call me with the gossip, hey, I gotta go. I gotta go. And they don't care if it's their mama, they don't care if it's their sister, their uncle, their daddy, their cousin, their best friend, their worst enemy. They don't care. If you're calling me with drama and you're calling me with gossip, I gotta go. I gotta go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What you're talking about is someone who maximizes time in a positive way, as opposed to someone who has huge gaps and vacancies that they should be filling with time in a positive way. But maybe because I don't know, like you say, I don't know if I'm right about this. Maybe there are some things that they don't know to do to fill that time positively. Maybe there are a lot of things that they wish they could do and they believe that they can't. I don't know. I don't get the mindset behind it. I don't get it. It's so high school. You know, it's still very high school, and it's something that's hard for me to click up and connect when you're talking about people 40 and up that
Right.
have these dynamics where there's always some drama and just shade and undermining and undercutting and trying to just sabotage people emotionally. I just don't get it. And then when we talk about minding our own business, all of the different things that could be accomplished if those exact same interactions and relationships were flipped and done in a positive way. You take and have something that's divisive and toxic, where if people are communicating differently and creating a completely and totally different type of synergy, what that could turn into in terms of a communal connection to be able to elevate and rise and support and do things together. You know, I love bouncing different ideas off of you and all of the other folks that I know that I do that with. I was just in a think tank on Thursday where we got really deep into some things, and I'm always that person. I mean, you already know I become passionate about other people's ideas. You think it was my life, you know. I get so vested in it, just so excited that I'm just spewing out all of these different ideas. I wouldn't change that for the world. I enjoy being that person where if you have something that you want to do or something that you're even considering, maybe you don't even know you want to do it by the time I get finished because you told me about it. Oh, you're going to want to do it and I'm going to help you do it. I'm so used to that environment, you know, and it just doesn't make any sense to me for people to be of the age that they are, and that's the space that they're in. So I think this is a conversation that's not only important for now, but I think it's important when we think about looking forward within the future, because it doesn't matter where someone is or what their way of communicating is now. That can always change, because I would argue that if this is something, this toxicity is something that's a part of your regular way of communicating in the people who are within your circle, I can bet that there are some aspects of your life that are a direct reflection of that.
Right.
That can't exist and not have an impact on the way in which you think and move personally when you're not around that. It's just the fact that it exists. And when that thing exists, when negativity exists anywhere, it permeates every aspect of your being. It's kind of like someone who has a problem with forgiveness and they say, oh, well, that's just that person. I don't deal with them. Well, let's think about that. You have to have a state of mind in which you are present in that situation from the past to remember that you don't deal with that person. That's
Right.
energy that you're harboring. So that energy, if you're married, that energy goes into your communication with your wife, your communication with your children, your communication with the people, your friends, your professional communications at work, because it exists in you. It permeates every aspect of your being, and it does impact who you are. And you know how we know this is true? All of us can look and reflect back on a time when we had a negative period in our life, and if we're able to take and peel back the layers of that and find the root. That one root thing was where it started, but that energy permeated our whole entire way of life at that period of time.
Right.
It's not something that you can contain. It's not like you light a match and throw it in the dry woods and the fire is just going to stay on the one leaf that you dropped it on. Nah, it's going to spread out.
That's gonna burn the whole forest down.
Going to burn the whole thing down. So, I mean, that's the thing. Understanding that that energy is not something where if you allow it to exist, that you can contain it. You can't take and decide that it's just going to stay in this box. It becomes a part of who we are, how we communicate, the energy that we take into a room, and people respond to us based on our energy. We've all been sitting in a room and someone walks in there and the climate changes. You're like, oh, you know, you don't know what it is, but you know that that person has a feeling, an aura about them that just doesn't sit well with you. And they haven't said a word. They just walked into the room. I think understanding that that's the type of energy that we all carry around with us, and what we choose to entertain impacts the type of energy that we take with us and how other people respond to it and us in any given space that we're in.
You know, I think that's interesting because I think about when I listen to music, like I like to listen to music when I work. And depending on what I'm listening to, I can tell like my typing may be harder if I'm listening to something that has more angst in it. My typing may be more calm. My thoughts may be more calm and fluid if I'm listening to like classical music. But I think about how just the impact of music. I could be listening to an instrumental with no words. Just the impact that music has on my work productivity and how I work. And then you take those words of gossip and drama and trauma and you take that and it sits with you and it's like, so that's not going to have an impact, but music without lyrics can have an impact. I remember my wife and I were having a conversation at one point, and in standard husband and wife relationships, typically there's a debrief either at the end of the day, end of the week, end of something. There's a debrief, and how was your week? What did you get into? How was your day? What'd you do? Blah, 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 blah. And I remember getting to a space where I was like, hey, babe, there's certain parts of your day that for me, I probably would just like to know the high level of your day and not the details of your day. And it's not that she would go like above and beyond on details, but some of the things that for her are maybe have been normalized for her because of her profession, they're not normalized for me. And so when I hear things from a profession I'm in data, numbers are numbers, words are words, but that's my profession. But when you start throwing other different aspects of like criminal elements into what my day is, all of a sudden it's like, man, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel kind of run down? Especially like I'll even go as far as like being like a Black man who has genuine concerns when it comes to law enforcement. It's like, yeah, I don't want that to be sitting with me on a regular basis. So maybe when we talk about each other's day, we'll just kind of talk about these things and not all of these things. Now, if my wife needs to unpack, absolutely, I'm there to support that. But if she doesn't need to unpack and it's just casual to her, but not casual to me, I agree with you. You have to be willing to protect your energy. And again, like I said, I got people around me right now. They don't care if it's their mama, their wife, their cousin, their auntie, their daddy. They don't care. They're like, hey, look, that energy doesn't sit well with me, and it's my responsibility to protect my energy. And a lot of people will get into that and then feel some kind of way and be like, oh, well, I've been known to go to the extreme. Well, fine, I won't tell you anything. I won't tell you anything.
I can't even see it.
I won't tell you about my day. I won't tell you about my life. But the reality is that like it doesn't make you a bad person for wanting to protect that energy, because you're right. There is a cost that comes. That is not a zero cost activity. If you know all the drama that's going on, let's say in 10 different family lives, in the lives of 10 different families, if you know all the drama that's going on, you mean to tell me when you're in a room with those 10 different families that your mind's not going? Oh, well, I know, but you did this, and oh, I know you did that, and I know, but you did this, and I know that you did that. And it's interesting because not only does it create angst within you, it creates angst in the environment, because now these people are wondering who knows what about me, who said what about me, who snitched, who told, who did whatever. And it just creates this overall relationship of distrust.
Yeah.
I can't trust you to be confident. I can't trust that you have confidentiality with the things that I tell you, that the things that I share with you that are intimate things. They're for me. Even being married, love my wife, feel like I could tell her anything that I could desire to tell her about me. But there are times when my friends may share something with me that I'm like, that's just not my wife's business. I love my wife, love her. It's not my, because the way I see it is it's not my business to share.
Exactly.
If my friend who trusts me, who called me to share that information with me, wanted my wife to know, they probably would have just called my wife and said, hey, yo, look, Chas, this is what I wanted to tell you. But being that they didn't do that, I've learned to be very private and very confidential, even when it comes to my closest relationship.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Ooh, sorry.
We're on the same page with that. That's just something that I don't play with. I think that people, especially when you have genuine connections, that's so important. The people are so important, and it took me a long time to learn what I mean to some people. You know what I'm saying? You know, of course, you know what people mean to you, but a lot of times you're not always thinking about what you mean to that person. That there's a reciprocity that goes on there, especially when you have relationships that have gone years and years, years and years and years, and all the different layers of life experiences, memories, emotion, things that are to come, talks of the past, present, and the future, things that are to come. So I used to miss the part of how much I mean to people, and so understanding that is so important for me to care enough to guard that and protect that, and for that to be something sacred. And I think that a lot of the times, there was someone who said to me recently that there's not anyone that they trust. I said, really? And they said, yeah. I said, well, why is that? They said, because people are not perfect. You can have the best intentions, and it could be a good person, but they still fall short because they're imperfect. I said, well, is that just imperfection, or does that have anything to do with trust per se? Because someone can be imperfect. And you and I think this might have been the last episode, you and I, when we were talking about going through the course of the conversation, and you said a situation that a person handled with you, or you handled with the person. No, the person handled with you, and you were like, well, why would they handle that way? They were trying to protect you, but you thought that the person could have handled the situation differently. Well, at the end of the day, Billy's not receiving Billy. Other people are receiving Billy. Of course, Billy could say, well, I would have. Yeah, you're not receiving you. We are. So in that particular instance, and in instances like that, is that about trust? Or is that just about someone with the information that they have making the best decision that they thought for the moment? And even if you disagree with it, you learn from it. So I challenged that. I was like, I don't think that necessarily has to do with trust. I said, trust has everything to do with intention as well. There are lots of things that we can encounter that we feel like could have been a different way. But if the intention isn't there, then to attach that and make that about a trust issue with the person, I don't think is necessarily fair to the person or to the relationship.
Right.
So we think about this conversation of minding one's business and understanding that there's an energy that we take around with us. Context is so very important for everything, and really checking the climate of who we are, what we represent, and what we're trying to put out there. Who do we want to be to the people around us when they encounter us? What's the type of message that you want on folks' lips when they leave a room that you occupied with them? I think that's something to think about. When you people, I don't care nothing about what people think. Well, I don't think any one of us, if you're, 40 and up, sitting around planning your life based on what someone else thinks. But we're not talking about someone's general opinion about who you may be, or judgments that are done that are out of context and don't make sense. We're talking about the type of person that you are, their experience with you, and what that energy means. Are you somebody that, if they were thinking about putting something together, you would be a part of that because you could blend in a room with everybody? Or would you be the one over in the corner looking for some drama to kick up and fun shade?
Right.
How would that situation go? And so understanding that when we're focused on minding our business, which, and just for the purposes of this conversation, or what we brought out during this conversation, if you're minding your business, then you're taking the different areas of your life that has openings that need to be filled, and you're choosing to find productive ways to fill those holes, instead of maybe leaving them open and passing the time by putting something in them that's going to change the climate of who you are, and maybe the way in which you're able to connect and collaborate with other people.
So, I got a question for you, right? Because of what you just said. You're not receiving you. People are receiving you. based on that, I would say that alone, when you have, if I'm a person who's minding the business of others, I'm not receiving what I'm giving. I'm simply giving it. What are your thoughts or what are your feelings on how, because people are receiving me as a gossiper or as a person who I can come to for the drama, what does that do in regards to the integrity of your trust that you have with that person or that person has you, kind of the distance that they're willing to keep you at? Because just like many people in my family have taught me, many elders in my family have taught me, if they're talking about somebody else's business, they just ain't talking about yours because you're standing in front of them.
Yeah.
Uh, and so really when I put myself into the position of the gossiper, not the person receiving gossip, but the gossiper, I think about what that does to my character and my reputation with people that I might care about and might want to be around, as it regards to their ability to trust me, and not just in the confidential realm, but to trust me with things that are important to them and in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that if you find yourself in a space where you're the go-to person for that kind of interaction, that's something that you created. Period. I mean, and I know this because I'm not the person that people call if that's what they want to do.
Mm.
Typically, they end up being offended by something that I'm going to say because that's just the way it goes. So I'm not that person that people call, and that's because I don't tolerate it. If someone feels comfortable and if people feel like you're that person to go to with that, you've created a climate that lets people know that that's what you're about, that you're going to feed what it is that they're looking for in that regard. And I think that that's really a self-check moment, especially if you don't want to be seen as that person. Because I know people who don't want to be seen as that person, but they can't stay away from knowing what's going on with everybody.
Mm.
You know, it's like, I kind of want to know, but I don't want that to touch me. I don't want to be that person. Well, you can't have it both ways. You know, either you want to know what's going on or you want to mind your business.
Right.
One or the other. You know, there are no two ways about that. So I think that a lot of the times we'll unintentionally create environments that don't serve us at all, that don't feed who it is that we say we want to be and how we want to show up. We'll unintentionally feed that. And then after we feed that, trying to disassociate ourselves from an environment that we help to create and to perpetuate can become a completely and totally different hill to climb. Completely totally different hill to climb. But I would ask you, in situations like that, if you've ever known, and I think all of us have probably known some folk like that at one point in time, if someone is caught up in a cipher of that they're trying to disconnect from, but the challenge is in disconnecting from that, I'm disconnecting from the community that I've made myself a part of that's connected to it. And giving up that, I would be giving up a whole lot. And for some people, I'm saying this because I know a few people like this. They're tired of it and they don't want to be a part of it, but they've aligned themselves with people for personal and business reasons where that's what they do. So now it went from being fun in the beginning to now I have to play the game in order to be able to keep whatever it is that they deem valuable or they deem worth having. What would you say to someone who's trying to get away from that? What would your advice be to help them to do that?
So I would say there's two different approaches to take. And I would say the approach that I personally would take would probably be a cold turkey approach. Hey, look, if I have 10 friends and all of us are gossipers and that's the community, all the social gatherings, all the kids' birthdays, everything is associated with those 10 gossiping friends, then I need to find one friend who's not about that life and cold turkey move over to this one friend. That's what I would do, because I would try to find people that I want around me that are heading in the direction that I'm heading. You cannot keep your foot with the 10 gossiping friends and expect for your boat to set sail and make it across the sea. Ain't no anchor chain long enough. You'll never make it. And so for me, I'm a cold turkey person, but that may not work for everybody. And so my advice to those who that doesn't work for would be to slowly wean that relationship. And what you'll find, and this is one of the interesting things about circles, especially probably circles of gossipers, is that they will market your change for you within that community. Oh, Billy all of a sudden ain't good enough to hang out with us and this, that, and the other. But what will also happen is they will begin to see things change in your life. They'll begin to see, oh, Billy's not living from check to check anymore. He's not complaining about not having money. He's not complaining about being broke. He's not complaining about getting into arguments with complete strangers. He's not complaining about those things anymore. And so they'll see that and they will market that amongst themselves. And for those who are also sick and fed up with it, they'll join you on that journey of change. And if all 10 of them aren't about that life, then that's fine. You just have to realize at some point in that journey, you're going to find yourself in that moment of silence that we discussed in the last show, or in the show before last. You're going to find yourself in that moment of silence. And that is the most optimal time to try to figure out who it is that you want to be. What are the type of people that you want around you in that new rendition of who you're developing, and evolve and ascend to that level. And I promise along the way, you're going to find people who align with that. It's impossible to change. I can put it this way. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm gainfully employed. I can choose to be a criminal tomorrow. And I promise you, if I choose that, at some point, you're going to find me around other criminals. Right now, I don't have criminals around me because that's not my element. That's not the space that I'm in. People that I'm around follow laws, because why? We have things to lose if we don't follow them. So we follow the laws.
That part.
And so it's no different. The way that the world works, it does not care whether we decide to make a voyage to something positive or we decide to make a voyage something negative. On either voyage, there is an audience somewhere waiting to join us on that voyage.
That is the truth.
That's what my advice would be.
That is absolute truth. And you know what, to your point with that, when you talked about that audience someplace else and connections that people make to other people, where you end up sometimes intentionally and unintentionally in these toxic ciphers. I think that one of the most valuable things that a person can do is to understand that I don't care what the connection was that brought you together, whether you thought that it was something that was going to be beneficial to where you're going or what you're trying to do. This person may be in an industry that you're trying to get into. There may be something that you admire about them. They're taking on the space of a mentor, officially or unofficially, that you look up to. I think that that's where our own sense of self-worth and trust in ourselves, having some courage. It's always tempting to go to other tables. And sometimes for some people, a little nerve-wracking to create your own table.
Right.
I think you have to be willing to create your own table sometime and just go about finding out what shape that would take and what that would look like. If you mind in the business of creating your own table because you've become affiliated with and sat at some other tables, and it was cool. Those people put in some work to create that table for you to have a seat there. But if sitting at that table changes the very climate of who you are as a person, is it really worth it? Is it really worth sitting at that table, losing who you are, or having an inaccurate representation of who you are on the lips of others who may encounter you? So right. if your circle, what you described was birds of a feather. Back in the day, birds of a feather flock together.
Yes,
your circle should be an accurate representation of who you are. And if anyone out there watching this or listening to this, you're involved in a circle where you feel it may be fun, because sometimes drama is fun to people. But aside from that, is that an accurate representation of who you are as an individual when you show up without any of those people doing your own thing? If you're going to put yourself out there professionally, if you're going to be around, if you're a parent, if you're going to be around other parents with their children, if those other parents knew about the side of you that you present when you're in the group with all of the drama, is that an accurate representation of who you are as a parent, as a professional, someone to be in a relationship with, just someone to show up in the world? Is that an accurate representation of who you are? And if it's not an accurate representation of who you are, do you have the courage, the belief in yourself, the sense of self-worth to get up from that table, leave your napkin, and go create a table of your own?
Right. Excuse yourself.
Mm-hmm.
No, that is the create your own table. It's amazing because here's the thing that I found in my circle, I would say my circles of friends. From a very young age, I knew I was a leader. Very young age. Like, I didn't want to be a leader, to be honest. I was like, yo, I just kind of want to be in the background so I could do whatever I want to do. But was a leader. It didn't matter if we were playing tag. It didn't matter if we were playing basketball. It didn't matter if we were playing kickball, dodgeball, or any other ball-related game on the monkey bars, whatever. There was just a sense of me being willing to do whatever I wanted to do and not be so consumed with what people would think about it. So I would think about, like, when I would do talent shows and I'd be singing or I'd be dancing or I'd play the trumpet or whatever it may be. And at no point was I ever really concerned about how people would perceive those things. I remember being in high school and we were I was in dance class and we had to do a dance performance for one of the plays that was being performed, and part of one of the dance performances was ballet. Here I am in a hood school, like
You was gonna be Dr. Dre. That was gonna be you.
This was not High School Musical by any means. But I'm like in this space where it's like, yo, I gotta do these ballet lifts and I need to learn them in order to execute them in this show. And as much as you would think people would tease me about that or say mean things about me or, oh, you were doing ballet or whatever, nobody said anything about it. And I think what happens when we come to a space in our life where we feel the need to gossip or we feel the need to really what I'm going to call gossip what I perceive it to be. When we feel the need to demean others so that we can feel like we have some sense of edification within ourselves, it really, again, begins to speak to our level of confidence in being who we are. See, I think that if maybe I was insecure about these things growing up and what do they say, kind of painted a target on my own back. Oh, there's a target on my back because, people are going to make fun of me. I think maybe that would have led to people probably teasing me or whatever.
Yeah.
But
blood in the water.
Right.
Yeah.
But the confidence to just be who you are, a lot of people don't have that. And so when you see that, you're like, yeah, there's not really much to talk about. I've had people try to speak out against me about things that I've done in my past. And they're talking to people about me and they're like, yeah, why are you telling me this? I know that.
Like, right.
Like, this person has already shared that with me. You're not gossiping anything new. Like, you didn't just find new information about this person and, oh my gosh, that's what happened? Tell me more. No, because I've been open about what my life is, because I realize that I'm going to make mistakes. I realize that I'm going to have successes, and I realize that I'm going to have failures. And if you want to highlight a conversation based on my failures, kudos to you. But while you're talking about my failures, realize that I'm working on me. And that's where I think minding the business of others really causes us to pay a significant cost, because there is no way I could have my steering wheel or my hand on your steering wheel in your car, driving your car, and be focused on the road while driving my car. No way.
That part. That's so true. That's so true. And you know, this game of life is not for the faint at heart. It's hard. It's levels to this. There are ebbs and flows. Just when you
Absolutely.
think you got it together, then something that's new comes along, and now you have to shift and elevate your game, the way you look at things. And I mean, as we go through this, you always get tools to take to the next level, but each level is new, like Mario Brothers back in the day. Each level, I don't care how far you at, each level was new. For those who still Candy Crushing, all of that. Each level is new. It doesn't matter how good you get. There's always something that we are going to be required to learn in order to continue to grow. And so focusing on our own business, and if we choose to get involved in someone else's business, taking a look at what's going on them and seeing what on your journey you can add to theirs to make better. That's so important because those same people, it's just instinctive for them to think about adding to you.
Mm.
It's one of those types of things where even if they never would have thought to do it before, the fact that you became connected to them, saw something that they were doing, and you could have looked at that two ways. You could have thought, yeah, that's stupid. Why are they thinking about doing that way? Well, I would this and that, but keep it to yourself, or say, hey, I see that's what you're doing. Well, have you ever thought about this? You ever thought about that? Well, how about try this, and then walk on and keep doing your thing. Now you've not only sown into what's going on with somebody else, you've sown some seeds into what they're doing, but that's something that you put on their mind that they're not going to forget about how you didn't have to say anything or do anything, but you did. And it was something that was from the heart where you truly wanted to see them win. That person instinctively will have something come up. It could be years later, and they think of you because they remember that thing that you did that you didn't have to do. I've had that happen so many times. And
Mm.
I don't support people to have that happen. I truly love seeing something that someone wants to do and just getting this download and just painting that vision for them. I just love doing it. It is like a natural high for me. So I don't do it to get anything back, but I've just noticed that because that's the way that I operate, the way life works, the way synergy works, the way the universe works, those things come back. And it's so much more gratifying. You end up getting pieces from people around you to add to your own business, just because if you decided to mind their business, you were an asset to what they were doing and not a liability.
Right. Right. I think that brings up another question for me. When it comes to the accountability aspect, and I'm going to say on both sides, to be a receiver of gossip or to be a gossiper. When it comes to the accountability aspect, how can people hold others accountable to their boundary on gossip? And how can people, I'm going to say, mitigate and manage uh, those boundaries with themselves in regards to gossiping? What's your advice on that?
I think full transparency. If someone's coming to you, full transparency. A lot of the times, and I think about this from in my, when I was younger, we've all had moments where we've been in situations where we'll reflect on and say, man, I wanted to say, or I should have said. And I think a lot of the times when I wanted to say or should have said, I didn't have the tact and the polish that I have now. And it would just come out straight, raggedy and street. It didn't come out. It didn't make for a good situation. But fast forward to now, full transparency. When I have, and it's rare, but when I have people call and the energy or contact me, however they contact me, and it has that negative energy, I'm very transparent about the fact that this first of all, this is a waste of my time, and I'm curious to know why it's not a waste of yours. What do you care? I mean, speaking to exactly the truth of how entertaining this makes you feel and how that person presenting it, especially because, it's been some instances where I think I know this person in one context, because many times that's the way that it is. We know people in a specific context, but we
Right.
don't know the broad scope of who they are, the full dynamic, because there are so many different facets to us, right? So I'm just transparent and I just speak to the situation and how I think that it's a complete and total waste of their time. And what does this have to do with the cost of tea in China? So I think just full transparency and letting people know where you are with it, and that it basically is a drain on you is number one. And then number two, when you have situations where, let's say, you've managed to get swept up in a situation like that, and you're trying to mitigate damage or unplug. That's what you were asking, correct?
Right.
So trying to mitigate damage and unplug. I think understanding that we're not bound by a decision that we make. We can rescind our position at any point in time. And I think a lot of the times that's what we forget. Even as parents, for those of us who are parents, if you've ever had a situation where you give your kid permission to do something, then you think about it and say, I don't think that's a good idea. But then you may not want to take it back. So you just let them go along with it. It happens in friendships and parenting, whatever. Understanding that you can become involved in something and not understand the full scope of what you signed up for and pull out of it. And you don't have to have a reason why. You don't. Just the fact that I started it and now I'm in it, it doesn't work for me. So mitigating damage has everything to do, I believe, with being completely and totally authentic with where you are at that point, and understanding that you don't need anybody else's approval to stand in your truth. The only person that needs to approve is you.
Right.
So just like you got in, you can unplug. And then sometimes, depending on who you're dealing with, it's kind of hard to mitigate damage. Some people, because you have the audacity to pull out of a situation that everybody involved know is bogus. Everybody knows it is bogus, but some people just like to live that way. Sometimes you can become a target because you're choosing to do the right thing. I think that understanding that consequences involved in every choice that we make. So sometimes that's just the nature of the beast. Sometimes you can sign up for something, overextend yourself, do the right thing and pull out, and you're not able to mitigate the damage, because the truth of the matter is if you had been present, you shouldn't have signed up for it in the first place. I think just take it in stride. Take it in stride and keep it moving. It is a learning experience. So sometimes the parties involved will let you know how far you can go to actually mitigate damage. But I think understanding that sometimes when we make the wrong decision, we can't always make it 100% right in that instance, but it's a tool that you can take later to make sure that you're not repeating that same thing.
Yeah. And sometimes when you fall, it's gonna hurt. There ain't no way around that. I mean,
no way around it.
Just is what it is. Hey, if I'm running top speed and I fall on the concrete in what do we used to have, biker shorts and some biker shorts, yeah, I'll be scraped up. There ain't no way around that.
Strawberry patch.
So no, I definitely I like that, and I love the fact that you bring up that you can rescind your decisions, because I feel like there's so many areas in life that applies to. Think about, like, if you were part of a group that gossiped in high school and you guys have been friends now for what, 30, 40 years. Think about how that could make you feel like you owe somebody something that you really don't owe them. You don't owe them at all. I don't owe them nothing, but I'm going to act like I owe them because of the history. Well, that history was a decision that was already made, but your future is a decision that you get to make.
Come on now.
Like, that
is a t-shirt.
But that's the reality of it. It's like we subjugate ourselves to decisions that we've already made and force our future decisions to fall in alignment with that, when that's not the case of how decisions are made. So we're almost at time. You know what I realized is we never put up the link for anybody to join us today. Our bad, my bad. It was still live though.
Right. Yeah, y'all. We here. We in the building.
But I guess since we're almost at time, we'll end with some closing thoughts. What do you have as a closing thought?
Only closing thought I have for this basically is decide what climate you want to enter a room when you show up. And that dictates how you should proceed when it comes to folks around you who probably don't want to mind their business.
Dang. Yeah. I would say your reputation precedes you.
That part.
And depending on what you've been putting out there, you don't get to decide what that reputation is. If you want to be perceived as trustworthy, then you have to display that you're a trustworthy person. And the Bible, you know me, I rarely quote the Bible, but it's one of my favorite scriptures. I believe it's 2 Timothy, maybe 4:2 or 4:12. I can't remember what the verse is, but it's in chapter 4. I do remember that. But the Bible talks about, like, for a man to have friends, he must first show himself friendly.
Yeah.
And there is a friend that will stick closer than a brother. And I've lived by that when it comes to the relationships that I've established over the course of my life. That if I want to have a friend, if I want to have a confidant, then I have to be a person who provides that. I must show that to others in order to receive that from others. And it's not a worth thing. I think it's more so a thing of you are displaying what you stand for, and people who are willing to stand with you for that will naturally gravitate to you. I have hundreds of numbers in my cell phone. I don't care if I've known you for 80 years, which would be my last lifetime and this lifetime added together. But if I've known you for 80 years and you call me and ask me for a person's phone number, there's no way I'm not calling the person to see, hey, are you okay with such and such having your number?
Yep.
I give that respect because of the fact that I'm like, yo, if you don't have my number, I don't want people, I may not want them to call me. Maybe you changed your number. Maybe you changed it so that they didn't have your number. Either way, I'm not going to put us in a situation where it's like, oh yeah, Billy gave me your new number. And I in those conversations, I've had people say, no, Billy, you have the number to get in touch with me. They can have this number.
Oh, yeah.
It ain't that number, but they can have this number.
Yeah, because you got that from me.
Right.
I said the same thing.
So that would be my closing thought is truly, and man, I want to get to the tools because I love what you said in your last stanza. But as always with these conversations, these live shows, we have what we call the coach's tools. And tonight we got a couple of them because there was some fire points that Taralyn dropped. But tool number one, when it comes to coach's playbook, let me stop this from scrolling. I don't like when it does that. There we go. Tool number one, when it comes to coach's playbook, is that gossip cannot exist and not have an impact. There is a cost that permeates. I love that word that you use, that eventually and inevitably permeates the person who is either gossiping are receiving gossip. And there is no way that cost can be put on layaway, put on credit, put on a loan. That cost is paid immediately the moment you bring it in. And it almost stagnates the interior of the person and the character of the person. So that's tool tip number one. Tool tip number two is when we change.
That's
it's
right.
okay to change, but be willing to create your own table. I think sometimes we say we want to change, and then we say, but, ain't nobody going to believe me. Your change doesn't require the belief of others in order to be real to you. So when you say, I'm ready to make that change, whether that's I'm going to cut cold turkey and go and build my own table, or I'm going to slowly wean myself away from this table, when you say you're ready to make that change, and don't allow really anything to keep you from making that change. You've chosen it for a reason for yourself. And if people are not able to understand the reason why you've chosen that change for you, that's okay, because it don't have to apply to them. And then tool number three is full transparency. I love that tool as a tool as far as how to create a deterrent from being gossiped to or being a gossiper. If your requirement is full transparency, people know when they come to you, hey, if I come with the bull and this is business that ain't their business and they're sharing it with me, I do this all the time. Oh, I don't like this person. Da, 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 da. Okay, well, before you go any further about why you don't like this person, no, when we get done, my requirement to you is going to be, you need to talk to this person. And I'm going to give you a timeline to talk to this person, because after that timeline, I'm going to follow up with the person and say, yo, did you and such squash that or deal with that?
That's right.
That transparency says one of two things. Either they're going to be accountable and say, okay, I can get behind that. And then now they're not just gossiping, they're actually soundboarding to try to get a solution.
There you go.
Or they're going to say, never mind. Never mind.
Works every time.
So full transparency. I love that as the deterrent for gossiping. And then I actually created a bonus tool here because it was too good to leave behind. We can rescind our decisions at any time. I don't care if you was gossiping just 5 minutes before the show started. You can rescind that decision going forward. And what that looks like to you, or what that may look like for you, is, again, just simply saying that the next time I have the opportunity to gossip or hear gossip, I'm not going to engage. And so that leaves me with the exercise. And this, we don't always have exercises, but tonight we got an exercise.
I like it.
If you find that you have been either minding someone else's business, or you find that people have been minding someone else's business and bringing it to you, my encouragement for exercise this week, or the encouragement for exercise this week, would be the next time you get a call and somebody's gossiping you, just say no. Just say no. No, I'm not available for that. I thought you were calling to talk to me about something uplifting, and it doesn't mean that their situation may not be uplifting, but something that was going to either uplift us, that was going to create a solution, that was going to resolve something or edify us, and you're not calling with that. I'm going to just say no to this conversation. Anything else you want to talk about? No? Okay, well then, have a good day. And by setting that stage, you begin to shift those calls that come to you. They be like, oh, I got some juicy gossip. Nah, I ain't going to call Billy because, he ain't really about that.
Now listen.
We're going to make it not fun.
That's me. I'm never fun for that. No.
So that's what we have for you guys this evening. Really quick, we got some things that are coming up that I really want to share. First and foremost, thank you for tuning in live. But there's a new show in town, and it's not on the first row. It's called the L3 Perspective. And this is a new show that just launched about 2 months ago. And the 3 L's are life, love, and leadership. I love their mantra here: on a mission to bring value through life, love, and leadership. Head over on YouTube to @the L3 Perspective 7, all one word, and check out their content. They have such a diverse range of content, from entrepreneurs to relationships to just everything. Head over there and check them out. Their shows, their new shows drop on Tuesdays, 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So most of y'all ain't up at 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I am, but most people are not up at 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. But check them out. I'm always looking at new content in places that I can point viewers to in times when First Row is not up and running. Or even if it is a time that First Row is up and running, it's just more content, more areas of growth that you can tap into. So check them out on Tuesdays with new content, but they have a couple of shows that are already up on the channel that you could explore. And then, as always, for Taralyn, Michelle, and Billy Wroe, you can catch us every Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to get in touch with Taralyn Michelle via social media, you can catch her at The Grind Define. And then for myself, you can get me on social media at First Row. And by the way, based on the recommendation of my great co-host, Taralyn Michelle, I do now have a TikTok, but I'm not going to put that on this graphic. So if you go to TikTok, you can see me on TikTok.
TikTok is fire. It's fire. I got to say. It's good. It's
but on Wednesday, I will be back with the Wednesday Word. And this will be my last Wednesday Word, live Wednesday Word for the season. I have something to do on the last one. The last Wednesday Word will be a premiere. But then I take my break. So this year's cadence will be 2 months on, 1 month off. Taking those breaks where I can get them. But you can catch me on Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Other than that, I think that's it. I think that's everything.
Yeah.
As always, we're happy to have you here. I'm gonna sign out with the first row sign out. If you like this video, share it. If you share it, like it. We're always happy to engage with you. Thank you tonight, JC, for catching up with us in the chat. And if you're watching via the replay, we're happy to respond to you within the first 7 days of the content being up. But until the next time, I'll let you go ahead and take us out.
Oh, you already know. Peace and abundant blessings, y'all.
I almost just turned the show off without doing the outro.